I have to admit, when it came to choosing which Final Fantasy game I would first cover on this channel, it took me a long time to decide. I mean, a Final Fantasy game that wasn't Final Fantasy 15, by the way. After days and days of trying to make a decision, I finally came to one. I decided, let's start where it all began. Kinda. Let's go back to one of the first Final Fantasy games I ever beat. Let's take a look at Final Fantasy 1. As it being the first in the series and originally being on the NES, you probably won't be surprised that the story in Final Fantasy 1 is a bit simplistic. The world has been shrouded in darkness. The elements of the worlds have been enraged and have started to die out. Some would call it utter chaos. Only the warriors of light, of legend, can save the world from all devastation. And here they are! Meet the 4 Light Warriors. There's myself, Matt the Fighter, Styles the Monk, Corey the White Mage, and the little turtle himself, Snoop the Black Mage. These 4 warriors meet the King of Cordelia and find out that his daughter has been kidnapped by a knight gone rogue named Garland. To find out if we are the real deal, he sends us on a quest to go get his daughter back. After defeating the evil knight, we rescue the Princess Sarah, and the king rebuilds the broken bridge so that we can progress on our quest. And it's here where the game makes sure that you know the game has truly begun. We get our opening sequence, and from here it's up to us to find the path ahead. And it's here where the plot does somewhat diminish. It's still there, but unlike a story-driven game like Final Fantasy 7 or 9, that always has a reason from going to place. Final Fantasy leaves it to you, the player, to find out the right way to go. Getting the ship from Bicky the Pirate opens the sea to the warriors, and from here it's open season. As you progress through the game, you'll battle a fiend named Lich, and defeating him, you learn that the crystals have been taken over by him and 3 other fiends that fit the elements of the crystal. From there, the journey is set. Travel across the worlds, find the other 3 crystals, and stop the fiends at hand. Set sail, young warriors. We have a journey ahead. Now, for the sake of this review, I am playing the GBA port of Final Fantasy 1. You know, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 Dawn of Souls. The reason I selected this version of the game is very simple. A, it was the simplest way for me to record this game, and B, this is the version I have the most memories with. This being said, I will say right now that this isn't the definitive port of this game. That goes to the PSP version. And that being said, for a GBA port of a game that was on an NES and then ported to PlayStation, this does look really good. For each of the ports of this game, the sprites and layouts have been updated to fit whatever bit era of the consoles they were on. Characters and monsters look unique and are detailed quite well. It's not Golden Sun level, but it looks rather nice. And with that, the updated worlds and the dungeon layouts really do help make the characters stand out more and make things more vibrant. One of the major things that Final Fantasy always gets praised for is its music, and Final Fantasy 1 is no different of deserving such praise. Nobuo Uematsu composed the soundtrack for this game, and it is fantastic. I don't think there's really a single track that I hate in this game. And fun fact, Chaos Shrine is one of my favorite Final Fantasy songs of all time. At least one of the updated versions. Every track helps encompasses the situation that you are in, and it wouldn't be Final Fantasy without it, which funny enough kind of started with this game now that I think about it. Now, in case you couldn't tell, Final Fantasy is a turn-based RPG, and it's thanks to this game that this style of RPGs exist. I mean the kind where you have the good guys on one side and the enemy on the other, and from here you can make the decision of attacking, using magic with your mages, using an item, change your equipment, and flee from battle. Now, much like its story, Final Fantasy's gameplay is also very simplistic, but just because it's simple, it doesn't mean that it's bad. Once you find your strategy of taking out hordes of enemies with using the right spells and equipping your party just right, battles will become a thing of the past. One bad thing I can say about this game, however, is its rather odd difficulty spikes. Take the Marsh Cave, for example. It's essentially the second dungeon that you'll be exploring in the game. It's got your typical cave-like enemies, skeletons, slimes, gargoyles. Okay, but what you soon learn is that these enemies hit like a goddamn truck to some of your party members, and sure, the battles may not last long if you're good enough, but that still gives them a chance to kill one of your party members if given the opportunity. For being the second dungeon, that's kind of insane, and that's kind of an issue that's pretty prominent in the whole game, but it's not like a game-destroying issue, it's just one to keep in caution. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, our main characters have certain jobs to their names. Thing is, there's actually 6 jobs, but you can only select 4 since that's your maximum party output. I chose the fighter, monk, white mage, and black mage for this playthrough. The other 2 jobs being red mage, which has the power to use both white and black magic, as well as dish out some pretty good attacks, and then there's the thief. It's a thief. What's cool about this game, however, is that there is a side quest in this game that allows you to unlock a class change and grow your party, and this is simply awesome. At this point, the warriors have been through so much, so to see not only their class change, but them as well, really does give a sense of progression throughout the story. Not to mention, being able to dish out more damage is always a nice thing. Final Fantasy's gameplay and its features are simple to learn and simple to master, and for the game that started it all, it's rather fitting that it achieves this. So, you have defeated the rest of the fiends and restored the 3 remaining crystals. The crystals' powers point to the main cause of the disturbance, which has been occurring throughout the world. Our heroes rush to the source only to find out that it's the place where it all started, the Chaos Shrine. Walking up to the room where they face Garland, they touch the crystal ball sitting in the room. Doing this warps them to another time and place, and the final dungeon is laid before them. Okay, now, before I move on, I just want to talk about how really awesome this is. Having the final dungeon take place in the area where your journey really started off is such a nice touch. I mentioned before that this game gives a real sense of character progression throughout the story, and having the game end right where it began is a perfect way to have it done. Not a ton of RPGs nor even Final Fantasy games ever do this, so seeing something like this is just a nice touch for me. Alright, well, the final dungeon can be quite a pain to navigate through as it has some twists and turns, but once you get your way through and battle the 4 fiends again, it's time to walk through the final door and stop the culprit behind all of this, and it is none other than Garland. You know, that guy? Well, it turns out that when you defeated him, he was sent 2,000 years into the past, and it was thanks to the 4 fiends, which he then summoned to the present to drain the crystal powers, and the cycle of those events would continue for all eternity because a time travel stuff. What? He then unleashes the power within himself to become the evil being known as Chaos. You see what I did there? I mentioned Chaos before. I'm smart, aren't I? Okay, guys, it's gonna take all of our strategies and intellect combined in order to beat this bane of evil.
All right, guys, pack your bags. It's time to head on home.
Oh.
Chaos? He's dead, man. He was like, oh no, it's Styles, please don't hurt me. And I was like, you should have thought of that before sending all those fiends after us. Now you must taste my fist so fury. And he was like, oh, you defeated me. And I was like, well, yeah.
And after that challenging battle, the time loop that Garland and the other fiends were planning to create is now thwarted by the 4 warriors. And then this long text explains the rest of the ending, and it is long. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We saved the world, and it will always be saved again and again. Yay! To be completely honest, this is fine, if not just a little bit confusing. Final Fantasy is more about the journey that takes place in the game rather than the whole story. Sure, the story gives you an incentive to pursue your journey, but it's the journey itself that's the fun part. It's all about finding information and discovering new lands because you decided to, not because the story forces you to, which is the main appeal to me in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love some of the stories this series tells, but this was just a nice change of pace to have, and it was in the first Final Fantasy game. It's kind of interesting. Final Fantasy is the beginning of a franchise which would continue to thrive, for better or for worse. To see Square give the first game so much love with all its remakes and ports, it's kind of a nice thing to see. I couldn't recommend this game enough if you haven't played it yet. Yes, it can get a bit cryptic, so I wouldn't blame you if you used a guide. Hell, I did. If you do choose to play this game, however, I would easily recommend the PSP version. It's the most stylish and best sounding port, but the GBA version will always hold a special place in my heart. It's the one I grew up playing with and still go back to this day. This game is welcoming to new and old players alike, and it's one journey that I won't be forgetting anytime soon.